This bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Unit Titles Bill, second reading.
Speaker.
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Unit Titles Bill be now read a second time. The Unit Titles Bill received its first reading on the 5th of March 2009. It will repeal and replace the Unit Titles Act 1972, the primary legislation governing multi-unit developments such as apartment blocks, townhouses and office buildings. It was referred to and considered by the Social Services Select Committee, who received 101 written submissions and heard 36 oral submissions. Overall, there was widespread support for the changes, especially for those parts of the bill that increase disclosure for buyers and bodies corporate, and those that provide cost-effective, appropriate and timely access to dispute resolution services. Submitters have written to the Social Services Select Committee and to me as the Minister responsible for the bill, stating that new updated unit title legislation cannot come soon enough. I point out by way of background that the Unit Titles Act 1972 was designed for the simple, small-scale residential flats that were prevalent at the time. Often such developments would number only 2 or 3 units, but of course times have changed. Also, there are now almost 120,000 properties on unit title tenure in New Zealand. The trend is expected to continue and accelerate, particularly in the Auckland region, where it is estimated that within 50 years, 500,000, Mr Speaker, will be living in apartments, townhouses and high-rise buildings. The Act's inadequacy in the modern environment, where some developments contain more than 100 units, means, among other things, Mr Speaker, that buildings can be insufficiently maintained, that bodies corporate can be hampered by time-consuming decision-making processes, that disputes between owners are seldom resolved, and that there is little consumer information or, in fact, protection. Furthermore, the process for building developments can be inflexible and overly complex. The Social Services Committee reported back on the 2nd of September 2009 with several key changes to improve the bill. These changes were made in response to concerns from submitters that some provisions were overly prescriptive or onerous. I'm very happy with the decisions made by the committee, and I'd like to communicate that. I support the committee's recommendations wholeheartedly, and I'll go on to explain the merits of some of their recommendations made. An example of their common sense approach is a recommendation that the definition of a principal unit be changed to explicitly allow for the creation of car parks under title. This change follows views expressed by submitters that car parks should be able to be traded independently. The proposed change to the definition of a principal unit is an excellent one, especially when one considers the number of car parking spaces that are currently in central city and urban areas. I also draw members' attention to changes made in the long-term maintenance regime. When the bill was first introduced, it had a robust and future-focused provisions mandating that bodies corporate prepare in advance for repairs and maintenance. However, submissions demonstrated divergent opinions over the benefits of a mandatory long-term maintenance regime. Whereas some strongly supported the mandatory regime, other people were keen to see an amendment to allow body corporates to decide to opt out, reducing their compliance costs. Notably, no submissions objected to the concept of a body corporate planning in advance of maintenance and repair. And the committee, I'd have to say, has taken what I consider to be a balanced approach, retaining the mandatory requirement for the long-term maintenance plan, but providing an opt-out clause for the long-term maintenance fund. I have said before, I am a supporter of measures that reduce regulatory burden and red tape. My final point explains how the committee has done this with the bill. It has been over the financial monitoring and reporting provisions with a fine-tooth comb, and good for them, because this is commendable when one considers that body corporate accounts sometimes involve millions of dollars. In particular, the committee has had to grapple with the difficult question of how much financial monitoring is too much. Indeed, in light of submissions, the committee has even gone so far as to make the financial monitoring options optional, which means there's more choice for the body corporate to decide how much scrutiny the financial affairs how much scrutiny needs to be taken. While I'm on the subject, I'd like to advise the House that there will be some technical aspects that I believe can be more clearly drafted. So I'm currently considering a supplementary order paper will be necessary at the committee stages to address these, and I assure members that they will be technical rather than policy-driven in nature. In summary, I'm pleased to see the strong support and public interest in the Unit Titles Bill. I'm pleased to see, in respect to the new dispute resolution process, the requirement for increased disclosure, the reduced voting thresholds and the clarification and rights of responsibilities, that these issues have been addressed. Clearly this bill has hit the nail on the head regarding public opinion. Indeed, public opinion is that the bill must proceed with haste. My office is full of letters from members of the public who are keen to see this bill become law, and I'm certainly the committee members can relate that submitters were enthusiastic that something happens sooner rather than later. There are thousands of unit owners, body corporate managers, surveyors and legal professionals across the country waiting like patients on a monument for these measures to be passed by this Parliament. They are sensible measures. They are measures that strike an optimal regulatory balance. They are both needed and wanted, and I direct opposition members to read my speech if they miss that. This bill brings out our unit title law into the 21st century, addressing the massive changes that have occurred in our built environment since 1972. I would like to thank the Select Committee and all those who took the time to submit in helping to create an efficient, effective, sustainable bill relevant to the needs of modern-day New Zealanders.
The question is that the motion